happiest and healthiest people are those whose expectations meet reality. This is an instant message. Merry Christmas! My name is Courtney and welcome to F1oorOneTV. We're a group of students and youth pastors who want to make videos for you. We hope that when you come to our channel, you'll be challenged, encouraged, and inspired. First, I want to say thank you for those who've been coming each week, but if you're new, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. So we all know it's been a crazy year, and I, for one, have been looking forward to Christmas. The food, the movies, the music, I love all of it. It's the time of year where we get to see the world a little bit differently, which is why I'm excited to introduce to you the new series called Christmas Lights. So stay tuned these next couple of weeks because you're going to be treated with messages from the North staff and people you may or may not have seen on F1oor before. So from our team to yours, Merry Christmas and thank you for staying with us during this time.
I spend most of my life trying to keep my expectations low. Not trying to be super depressing, but sometimes I like to live by this saying. The happiest and healthiest people are those whose expectations meet reality. Which basically just means, if you keep expectations low, you are more likely to have them met. And when that happens, you're more likely to be happy, or at least not living disappointed at all times. But here's the thing. There's only one area of my life where I find this nearly impossible to do. Christmas. I want to have low expectations for Christmas, but there is something about this season where I just can't do it. Every year at Christmas time, I simply want it to be the best Christmas ever. My expectations about what I want to have and what I want to feel at Christmas are always, well, movie-like. Christmas has this power over me where I just want to have all the feelings, all the food, all the decorations, all the sentimental movies, all the friends and all the family, and all the stuff that Christmas season could possibly offer. I want every Christmas, including the one we're about to celebrate, to be the best Christmas ever. The rest of the year, I may be Miss Low Expectations, but this time of year, I turn into Buddy the Elf.
Why are you smiling like that? I just like to smile. Smiling's my favorite.
Maybe you feel this way too. Your family hasn't gone but 5 minutes without arguing in 10 years. But at Christmas, you imagine sitting around the fire, listening to Christmas music and drinking hot chocolate, smiles everywhere. Or maybe any other time of the year, you are totally fine being single. But at Christmas, you daydream about your crush showing up at your doorstep on Christmas Eve with a present so perfect, you couldn't have asked for anything better. Something about Christmas makes us dream big, raise our expectations, and imagine having the best Christmas ever. But our expectations are hardly ever met at Christmas, are they? Something is bound to disappoint us. And because we expect so much, the disappointment hurts so much more, which is why, like I said at the beginning, I try to keep my expectations in all of life low. Think about it. If you think your team is going to lose the football game, and then they lose, it's easier to take the loss than if you were convinced they were going to win. If you were waiting for your grades to show up at the end of the semester and you think you're going to get a low C in English, then think how much better it is when that low B comes dancing in the house. If you think the vacation time with your family is going to be full of frustration and fighting 100% of the time, and all you'll be doing is wishing you were with your friends, but then it turns out the fighting and the frustration is only 30% of the time, then you are pleasantly surprised at how enjoyable the time with your family turned out to be. Will they say yes if I ask them out? I'm prepared for a no. Will I make the team? Probably not. but I'm looking forward to being the team manager. Will I live a long life and be incredibly wealthy? I'm guessing climate change will probably change that before I'm 30. See how great it is to not expect too much? Even if you don't realize it, I bet you do the same thing I do in some areas of life. Maybe you're a total optimist when it comes to your dating life. You are sure that everyone loves you. Or maybe you are super confident in your athletic ability. I mean, there is no question that you'll make varsity as a freshman. But when it comes to areas of faith, I bet you, like a lot of us, keep your expectations low. We might pray, but rarely do we think God will do exactly what we're asking for. We would say we have faith, but the truth is, we're just not sure God is going to show up and act the way we think we should. Because God never seems to do what we expect him to do. And when that happens over and over and over, eventually it just becomes easier to stop expecting so much. And what does it look like to lower our expectations for God? We stop praying because we believe God either can't or he won't do anything. We lose interest in anything faith related because God seems distant, far away, and uncaring. We think God is weak and then assume he's unable to do anything big or powerful. We think God is uninterested. He doesn't know or care anything about our lives, so why bother telling him about it or expecting him to do anything in our lives? We don't always do it on purpose. We usually just kind of become this way. And then, if God does answer our prayer, if he does show up, if he does do what we ask him to do, great. It's a pleasant surprise. But set out with expectations will do all of that? Big mistake. I don't know about you, but that kind of God doesn't sound like something to celebrate at Christmas. But what if we got him all wrong? What if we were missing the point and there was a better way, a more realistic way, a healthier way to see God that if we really understood would actually make this the best Christmas ever? So what's the point? What is good really like? The good news is, we aren't the first one to have expectations of God and have him not meet them. In fact, the Christmas story, the story we are celebrating for the next couple of weeks, didn't happen at all like people expected. That may sound strange to say because the story may be familiar to us. So to imagine it going different would be weird. But the truth is, no way 2,000 years ago were they imagining God sending his son the way he did. But before we go any further, let's get a refresher on the details of the Christmas story itself. Mary, the mother of Jesus, was a young, pregnant Jewish teenager, not yet married. She and Joseph, the man she was engaged to be married to, did not have a lot of money and were living in a land occupied by the Roman Empire. And at the start of the story, the Roman government has decided they want to have a count of all the people. So every family was told to go to the town where they were originally from to be counted. So Mary, who is pregnant, has to get on a donkey and make a hot and dry and miserable trip to get to the town where Joseph's family was from. Sounds awful, right? But don't worry, that's not all. Once they get to Bethlehem, their destination, all the hotels are full. Joseph forgot to book an Airbnb or get on hotel.com. And now, Mary isn't just super pregnant and tired and uncomfortable. Now, she's also gotten nowhere to sleep. And then, just because there wasn't enough going wrong already, Mary goes into labor. As in, the baby is coming. Here, now, far away from their home, with no bed to sleep in, or have a baby in. Now, I know things were different 2,000 years ago. It's a different culture for that time and place. But I can promise you this, it doesn't matter what culture you are from or what time you are living in, this situation is less than ideal. Actually, it stinks. It literally stinks because in Joseph's desperation to find a place for Mary to have this baby, the only thing he could find was a barn with barn animals. and the smell that comes with those animals. And that's where they ended up. That's where Mary had her first child, away from her family, away from her home, away from anything comfortable. She had her baby, just her and Joseph, completely alone. And no one expected it. In fact, if I had been Mary, I would have been much more likely to think, God is distant. God is mad at us. God has forgotten us. God is punishing us. God has abandoned us. God is silent. Because if God doesn't do what we think he should, if God doesn't behave like we expect him to, then it makes sense to assume we've done something wrong, or God isn't what we thought. In fact, chances are there were a lot of people who already thought those things about God long before he sent his son to be born in a barn. Because for hundreds of years, he had been silent. There were no prophets with messages from God to hear. There was no sign of being freed from the empire that ruled them. There was no indication God even cared about them anymore, let alone that he was doing anything. But all appearances, considering expectations and considering reality, God was nowhere to be found. God was powerful, like a military leader trying to take the land back. God was obvious, showing up in a palace or in a wealthy family. God was predictable, doing what the people wanted if they followed the rules. God was exactly like they expected him to be, arriving like they thought and with messages they wanted to hear. But for all the expectations they had of God, it turns out they missed the one that mattered most. It wasn't that God had let them down, which would have made him undependable or weak or not worth following. It was that they missed who he really was and expected something completely different than who God had always been. And who was God? What was God like? Well, an angel showed up to tell Joseph exactly what God was like. In Matthew 1:21 through 23, the angel said this: "She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." And this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. "The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel," which means God with us. They expected a warrior ruler, punisher of enemies, king, someone to take charge, and they were disappointed because their expectations did not meet reality. But the truth is, they got something far better. They got a God who was with them, not in a palace, but in a barn, meaning he wasn't an out-of-reach ruler. He was an accessible and reachable God. God with them was an idea they didn't expect, but it was an idea that changed everything. God with us means no matter what, we are never alone. No matter our behavior, no matter our situations, no matter our family or financial status, no matter what we've done that we are proud of or embarrassed of. So what I want you to remember is this: no matter what, God is with us. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It started with Christmas, but it continues to be true because of Jesus' death on the cross, his resurrection, and his leaving the Holy Spirit to be with us forever. The Spirit of God lives in us as a reminder that we are never alone. When you think of God with us, it changes everything. It means no matter your reality, God is with you in it. Your family may seem super dysfunctional. God is with you. Your dating life isn't what you may want it to be. God is with you. You're failing geometry. God is with you. You didn't get the part you wanted in the play. God is with you. You're scared about what's happening in the world right now. God is with us. In other words, you are not in this alone. You aren't left to figure out life and scary stuff and annoying stuff and the stuff you worry about. You have God with you. Jesus changed the way we saw God. He gave us a new way to understand God and relate to him. In fact, in John chapter 8, verse 12, Jesus said this about himself: "I am the light of the world. Light helps you see what you didn't see before, which is exactly what Jesus did for us with God. The light helps us know what to expect from God and who He is, and that is good news. You might be asking, so what? God is with me. What can I do with that? Well, for you, it might just mean one thing. Find one way this week to keep reminding yourself that God is with you. Maybe it's writing a note in your phone, asking a small group leader or trusted friend or adult to help remind you. Or maybe you've known that God is with you. So try reminding someone else this week. Here's the thing. When you know God is with you and you know He's promised never to leave, it's far more difficult to be disappointed in God, because that is a promise He will never break. Christmas is the best time to take a second look at the way we see God, ourselves, and the people around us, and to let Jesus shine a light on an amazing promise that the God of the universe came down to earth to show you that He loves you, to show you that He cares about you, and to show you that He is with you.
That'll be it for today's video. Make sure you subscribe and leave a like, and check out the links in the description. Bye!
Is rolling. Backup camera is
Well, hello there.
and action.
That's all, folks.